in a free and open society. And we are, as a people, inherently and historically opposed to secret societies, to secret oaths, and to secret proceedings.
I think a new world order is emerging.
An inside job? How dare you? How dare you?
To create, so to say, mass-produced models of human beings arranged in some kind of a scientific caste system.
We shall go on to the end. We shall fight with growing confidence and growing strength in the air. We shall never surrender.
Good day, everybody! It's the 7th of June 2014. This is UCY.tv. Check out the website, UCY.tv. And if you mouse over shows, click on any of them, you will end up in the chat room, which there are already some people there. I will get to you guys a little bit later. Today, no trivium. We're going to spend some time, and I hope the whole show, the whole event, so to speak, about the USS Liberty. And, if you're bored, because you've heard all of this stuff before, then turn off the radio and go tell somebody that doesn't know yet about the USS Liberty. Alright? So, thanks for joining, everybody. I hope this will go alright. I'm hoping for some feedback from the chat room in case things do go wrong, because I've never done this, but I'm gonna try and let you guys hear some stuff that I've collected for the show, and I would like to hear some feedback if you guys can hear this. If not, I'm going to have to find some other way to let you hear this. Alright? So let's see what we can do here, guys. Hold on.
City dwellers and people from small towns and rural communities, teachers and machinists, day laborers, and presidents. Families in every place in America have a relative of
It was the deadliest attack on American ships since World War II. 34 sailors were killed aboard the USS Liberty after Israeli fighter jets fired on the Liberty during the Six-Day War back in 1967. So why don't more of us know about the story of this ship? Well, a father and son team are trying to change that. We are joined now by John Scott, who was an officer on the Liberty and the damage control engineer, and his son, James Scott, an investigative writer and the author of Attack on the Liberty. Gentlemen, thank you both for coming in today. John, I have to ask you, what was that day like?
Well, it started off, it was a great day for me. It was my 24th birthday, June the 8th, 1967, and I was looking forward to a good day. The weather was great. I had the 4 to 8 watch on the bridge that morning. Got to see the first light of day and got to spot the first observation plane that came out from Israel to fly around the ship and identify us and take back off towards Israel. And other than that, it was just a great day until out of the blue we got attacked.
And obviously many casualties there.
The attack was fast and furious, and it looked very much like the Israelis wanted very much to sink the ship and leave no survivors, which we know in retrospect was exactly what they intended. And so there was some premium on getting an SOS out. Israeli planes are strafing the deck. They're pouring napalm on the deck. And this courageous guy from Texas just goes out there, finds one end of the antenna, realizes that there's a cable that's been destroyed on the deck, goes back, gets some, I say, bailing wire. Commander of the 6th Fleet issued these instructions to send the jet, and they were sent. Now, bear in mind, the casualties were severe, but not as severe as they ended up being, because most of the crew, of course, was below deck, including those from NSA or seconded to NSA who were intercepting the Egyptian, Russian, and dare I say, Israeli communications. So after Admiral Geis set his fighter bombers off the carrier, all of a sudden he gets this message from McNamara saying, call those jets back immediately. And Guy says, I'm sorry, sir, one of my ships is being attacked. I'm not going to do that unless I can speak to your superior officer.
He said that to the Secretary of Defense?
Yeah. And guess what? LBJ is on the other line. And yep. And he gets right on. And he said, you call those jets back right away. I don't want to embarrass my ally, Israel. And so Admiral Geis called the jets back. Now, what's the significance of that? When those jets arrived on the scene, they would have arrived in time enough to prevent the torpedo boats, 3 of them, 60 tons each, from firing their torpedoes, one of which hit the NSA unit there below deck, killed 25 immediately, and disabled, of course, the entire intercept operation. So there you have 25 people that would have been not killed, and they were added to the, well, it ended up being 34 that were killed, 174 that were wounded, and that amounts to two-thirds of that crew of 294. So this was an incident that was not just a paltry little thing, it was a deliberate attack. We know from the intercepts between, pilot to control tower. But that's an American flag. That's an American flag. Bomb it. Strafe it. Carry out your orders. These things were heard by my colleagues. I was on sort of active duty, you might say, at the CIA at the time. And I know that my colleagues heard the attack.
James, you've become convinced, despite explanations at the time, that Israel was mistaken in shooting the Liberty and attacking the Liberty, that that's not the case.
No, it's important to remember this was an incredibly violent assault that happened at 2 p.m. in the afternoon on a clear sunny day while the Liberty was in international waters. It would go on for 67 minutes approximately. And at the end of that, 34 Americans would be killed and 171 injured. Essentially 2 out of every 3 men on board the ship would be killed or injured. And Israel would say it was an accident and that it was a friendly fire incident. But for policymakers back in that time period and for senior Navy officials, that defied logic. I mean, the circumstances of the attack, the prolonged reconnaissance that morning, the great visibility, and the length and duration of the attack tended to dispute that idea in the eyes of many senior American officials.
John, what do you think would have been the motivation if indeed Israel did know?
Well, I think they knew from the vast range of antenna on our ship that we were a spy ship. And I think that was probably fairly common knowledge. I guess any assumption I would have would be that they figured we were spying on them and that we were possibly going to relay stuff back to Washington that might prevent them from doing further invasions into neighboring countries. That's just my guess. I don't know the real motives, and I don't think anyone at this point knows for sure.
Let's get this. Sure. They must have had some real good reason to want to attack an American boat, because just think, if the truth got out to the American people at large that Israel had committed an act of war such as this, then that could cost American support for Israel over the long term. I mean, this is a major gamble they were playing. Why in the world would Israel do such a thing, Ray?
Why they did it? There are 2 reasons that I give equal possibility responsibility to. First one is that their plan was to take the Golan Heights starting on the 9th of June. This was the 8th of June. They couldn't communicate with their forces up there in Golan Heights without the Liberty intercepting the messages. And so, what do? Well, if you're pretty sure that the U.S. is going to have to let you off on this, you destroy the ship, you sink all the tapes as well, and you destroy all the survivors, so that you can go up on the Golan and not give the U.S. the opportunity to bang on you again, say, look, don't do it. In other words, in the Israeli frame of mind, it was better to ask for forgiveness rather than for permission. And that's precisely what they did. They went up on the Golan the next day. They didn't want us to know about it. They didn't want us to interfere with their plans. And that's one explanation. Now there's another. And this is sort of gory. There is Al-Arish, which is up about 1,000 prisoners. And prisoners are a real pain, in Sinai. You have to feed them, you have to give them water. And it's a real pain. And so what happened here, according to Bamford and these eyewitnesses, is that Egyptian prisoners of war, there are about 300 or 400 of them in the coastal town of Al-Arish there in the Sinai, they were lined up, they dug their own graves, they were shot, and that's the way they took care of the Egyptian prisoners. Now the Liberty is patrolling directly opposite Al-Arish, okay, in international waters, but with an easy range to pick up the intelligence of what's going on there, okay. Line of sight, you can see the Liberty big as it can be right off the shore. Now the Israelis were well aware of that, and that wouldn't be terribly good PR to get back to the U.S.
Yeah, it's better to commit 2 war crimes than 1. It's better to strafe Americans, attack Americans, and strafe them in their lifeboats than slaughtering a bunch of Egyptians, which obviously Americans don't care about anyway.
Yeah, well, if you achieve both, then you suppress all the evidence.
Comment about why this is so important right now in terms of the American-Israeli relationship, and Admiral Mullen's reference to the USS Liberty last year when he went to Israel and so forth.
Yeah. Well, long story short, no U.S. politician has dared to breathe the word USS Liberty since 1967 until July of 2008. You had Mike Mullen, who was chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, and he's a pretty gutsy guy. And so he was sent to Israel to tell them that they didn't want, that is, the U.S. administration, and particularly the U.S. military, they didn't want Israel mousetrapping the U.S. into a major fight with Iran. So what Mullen was hell-bent and determined to prevent was the Israelis doing this last summer when Mullen gets there and he says, look, if you're thinking about perpetrating a little provocation, like say in the Persian Gulf, don't even think of it. Because you know what? We know what happened to the USS Liberty on June 8th, 1967, and it ain't going to happen again. You hear me? Now, why is that gutsy? Well, it's gutsy because it's the first time any U.S. official braced the Israelis. They know that Mullen knows, not only that Mullen knows, but he's not going to happen again, okay? But if the chairman of the Joint Chiefs says, look, don't do it, this time that gives a little weight to the warning. Mm-hmm. He said, the evidence was clear. Both Admiral Kidd, in charge of the investigation, and I believed with certainty that the attack was a deliberate effort to sink an American ship and murder its entire crew. Not only did the Israelis attack the ship with napalm gunfire and missiles, Israeli torpedo boats, machine gunned 3 lifeboats that had been launched in an attempt by the crew to save the most serious wounded. That's a war crime.
All right. Let's take the next one.
All right. Lest we forget, God bless Americans. God bless Americans. Next speaker, Merlin Miller, former presidential candidate. He's going to talk about one of the things that I was really hoping that we'd be able to broach this year, and that's the USS Liberty.
All right. That's not so good. I'm gonna reload this, guys. It's stuck.
All right, lest we forget, God bless Americans. God bless Americans. Next speaker, Merlin Miller, former presidential candidate. He's going to talk about one of the things that I was really hoping that would be able to broach this year, and that's the USS Liberty. All right, let's give a warm round of applause for Mr. Merlin Miller.
Thank you. It's an honor to be here. What it was great is to see patriots here, patriots who are underdogs, who are politically incorrect, but are correct. You know what's going on in the world. I've gotten involved in a few things over the last several years of my life which were totally radical from where I came from. I was politically correct. Until about 11 years ago, when I met a survivor from the USS Liberty. I was actually marketing a motion picture. I was in the film industry, independent, meaning outside of Hollywood without any of the Hollywood assistance. We were marketing a film called Jericho, and I met through the distribution chain a survivor. He told me a little bit about their story. I'd never heard of it. I was an academy grad. I knew Naval Academy grads. I'd never heard the story of the USS Liberty. So I didn't totally believe it. But one thing led to another. I started doing a little bit of research on it. And over the course of the next 3 or 4 years, I started to find out that this story was true. It was shocking. It was the kind of story that our military, although they know nothing about, needs to know a great deal about. The story of the Liberty itself, and I won't go into a lot of detail about this because there are several other things that I'd like to touch on today. But what happened in 1967, on June 8th, this ship, which was an American intelligence gathering ship, was attacked off the Sinai Peninsula by the forces of Israel. Now, this attack was intentionally done, but it was done initially with unmarked jets. It was done such that we had no idea who was attacking this ship. The ship tried to get off messages to the Sixth Fleet, and actually they succeeded. A couple of crewmen did some heroics. They strung a line after all their communications had initially been wiped out by the initial strafing runs. They got a signal off, and jets were coming to their rescue. They were called back. They were recalled, and this ship sustained nearly 2 hours of intense attack by aircraft, then later torpedo boats, and then a helicopter with commandos on it, which fortunately left, thinking that our forces were finally en route to try to come to the rescue of the USS Liberty. 34 sailors and a couple of civilians were killed that day, were murdered by the Israeli forces. 173 others were wounded. This was out of 294 sailors and crew people aboard. The ship did not sink, even though it had a 40-foot hole in its side. Fortunately, later that day, actually a Russian ship came alongside, came near the Liberty, offered assistance. The captain, of course, refused that assistance, but the ship shadowed the USS Liberty through the night. In my opinion, that's a good thing because the Liberty survived it until the Sixth Fleet forces could actually arrive on site the next day. The next 6 days, the Liberty basically limped back to port at Malta. They didn't go to Suda Bay, which was much closer. They went to Malta. And of course, the ship miraculously survived that trek. To talk to the Liberty survivors, they're heroes. They pulled off an incredible story of survival that day. There were over 800 rocket holes in that ship. About 5,000 armor-piercing rounds hit that ship. 5 torpedoes were fired at it. 1 hit and, of course, created that 40-foot hole. Napalm was dropped on the ship. And later, those commandos, had they rappelled down on the ship, certainly would have been there to kill off the crew and scuttle the ship and removed all evidence of what happened. Now, we might ask ourselves, why did this happen? And then in the aftermath of this, even more incredible, this was covered up. The president not only recalled those rescue aircraft twice, but they then gave an order that those seamen were never to be reassigned together, any two together, nor were they to talk about this event. Of course, that traumatized him. Beyond that, an admiral who headed up the Naval Court of Inquiry basically was given 1 week to do it, instead of the normally probably 6 months, and they were not allowed to interrogate any Israelis in this matter. A lot of the testimony of the crewmen disappeared, was never included in the public record. Admiral McCain, Senator John McCain's father, was in charge of this. He sent off the report to Washington, D.C. with his signature, even though his adjutant general had basically said, no, this doesn't meet. It doesn't look right. There's problems with this. Still, they signed off on it. The general in charge of the inquiry was then directed, talked to the crewmen, and basically said, you guys can never speak of this to anyone after this. If you do, it's under threat of court-martial or worse. This is the kind of treatment these sailors went through. And they've lived with this since 1967. And it wasn't until nearly 20 years later that they first got together as a crew. Their story now has been told. Jim Ennis wrote the first book. Several others have written other books. A good friend of mine, Phil Turney, wrote a book which I think is an incredible book, and it's entitled What I Saw That Day, an incredible book from the heart. There is information now out about the USS Liberty, but you still don't find it in mainstream media. It is starting to circulate and hopefully will grow. But in the course of my whole coming upon this thing as a filmmaker, I wanted to tell their story. We now have a screenplay. Americana-Pictures.com is our website. We want to tell the story of the USS Liberty, and it's called False Flag. It doesn't deal just with the USS Liberty, but it connects to current intrigues. It's a political thriller, a story which hopefully will entertain people so that we can reach beyond the alternative media and actually have a chance of penetrating into mainstream media by entertaining the general public. If we can do that by whatever distribution means possible, we'll be revealing a story that is little known and needs to be well known. Because not only did a false flag occur against the USS Liberty, several other false flags have occurred before then and especially since then. I could go into a lot of detail on some of these, but I won't. It's not the time for that. But this story, I think, could really open up a can of worms and could be a game changer. So we are getting closer and closer. We're not going to give up the struggle until we get this film produced. In the course of that, the military, I can tell you a little bit about the military because I came from a background. The military are wonderful people. They're 99% there, all as patriots for the right reasons. They don't know, for the most part, how they're being used and abused. This story of the USS Liberty will reveal much of that. But these wars that are going on in the Middle East today, they're fabricated. This war on terror is a great fabrication. We are losing soldiers. We're losing our reputation in the world. We're losing our finances. All of these things are happening, and they're bringing down our country. I got involved politically because I was recruited about a year and a half ago to run as president for a new party, a party that would basically break away from the confines of the dialogue that the Republicans and the Democrats were talking about and try to reveal some truths, what's really going on to our country. The Liberty was the beginning of my journey. But since then, we've gone down all kinds of incredible roads that the general public doesn't have a clue. I'm so happy today to see members from the American Free Press here. We've got to do so much to get the word out, to grow the message. Do it. Share the word. Let people know about the American Free Press, to start to subscribe to it. Learn the truth of what's really going on in our country. Don't trust the mainstream media. I understand there were going to be some speakers here that didn't come, speakers that are highly respectful of the Second Amendment. So unfortunately, they aren't quite as respectful of the First Amendment. But we need patriots to stand up. We need everybody to say enough is enough. We need to take our country back. And that's to me, what this is all about. I think everybody here is here for one reason. We want our country back. We want a country back that respects our values, that respects our traditions, that will honor the Constitution, that will not allow these politicians in Washington, D.C., all 500, you include the Senate, you include the House of Representatives, you include the 9 Supreme Courts, and you include the President. If you got rid of 545 individuals, we'd have a clean slate, and that's what we need. But we need more than that. We need a media to educate and inform the public. It was Thomas Jefferson that said, the key to freedom is an informed public. We have a dumbed-down public. The Hollywood media, controlled by the same people, the international banking community owns these sources. They control the media sources. They control the politicians. They control what's going on in the world today through their central banking. I've also been fortunate enough through some of my politically incorrect activities to be invited to the country of Iran. I went twice to Iran last year. I got to meet with President Ahmadinejad. And I'm hopeful to go back and meet the president-elect, Rouhani, and also meet the supreme leader. These people are not the demons that we have been led to believe they are. The Islamic faith is a faith of peace. I'm a Christian, but I was over there treated with the utmost respect. I participated in a celebration, the 34th annual celebration of their revolution, walking through the streets with 2 to 3 million people who showed me respect, who knew where I was. They knew where I was from. They understand that it is not the American people. They understand that our government is Zionist controlled. We need to stand up and do something about it. There's so many things that we can do. Forming a new political party is one of them. Whether the party that I was involved with last year can modify their platform enough, can find the support and the resources to become viable, or whether we can successfully form a coalition effort of viable parties, we need to do something to take on the corrupt Republican and Democratic parties. They both say the same thing. They might profess one thing, but when they get in office, they do the same thing the other party did. They aren't representing America's people. They're representing special interest groups. So we need to do something about that. Where do we have forces in the general mainstream today that are standing up for honor and integrity? I think we have them, but quite often I think they're scared away. They don't realize that this is very serious for our country. It's not going to be very long, and America is going to be on the precipice. We're already there. Our country is in serious trouble. We've got an immigration invasion going on with 20 to 30 million illegals in this country, taking jobs that Americans can't find. They're going on the government dole. A lot of them are seeking that government dependency. At the same time, we've got these wars going on. We've got a war on terror, and our borders are wide open. There's a major disconnect in logic here. We need to secure our borders. We need to get the illegals out of this country. We can't let them compromise with a new amnesty, as they did in 1984 when they were going to fix this problem and not have any more. And, of course, you see what the result of that was. You can't trust them. They're not going to get it done. Our economy is totally falling apart, largely because we can't support these wars. We're also shipping all of our jobs overseas through these free trade agreements, which are anything but fair. All we're doing is benefiting multinational corporations and our foreign competitors. We're creating another third world country here in America, and that's what's behind all this. When you start to put all these pieces of the puzzle together, you finally come to the conclusion that a battle is going on right now between two forces. The forces are globalism, which is the Rothschild banking network, their Jewish American organizations of support within the United States, the American mainstream media, the political arena that they control. Powerful. They have power, great power. But we have to stand up. We have to find a way to fight that. But the force that can fight and beat that is nationalism. America needs to get back to its roots. We need to be a country that will stand strong again for American ideals. We were founded as a Christian nation, European-derived. I have nothing against people from other countries, other walks of life, but let's protect America's national identity. Let's protect what we're all about. Let's build from that. Our founding fathers gave us something so incredible with that Declaration of Independence. And if you read it now, you read the first few paragraphs, you'll see direct parallels to what's going on today and what happened back then. Those founding fathers were brilliant men. We need to recapture that. We need a nationalist spirit to say, let's put America first. Not in a way which says we're special, we're American exceptionalism. No. America should not be involved in ourselves and every other country's business. We should reach out with friendship, with diplomacy, seeking fair trade, doing those things that protect the American worker's interest, because our middle class is being wiped out. You look at where we were when I was young, this is where we are today. You know, the change is just so traumatic that young people today don't have a clue. If we're going to have a future for them, for their children, we need to stand tall now. We need to draw a line in that sand and say, enough of this. I'm not afraid of the Zionists. I'm not afraid of the banking network. I'm not afraid of a police state, because the police and the military both are made up of great patriots. They just don't know what's going on. They need to know what's going on. You look at the police back when in the 50s and the 60s. Who did we worship? We worshiped Andy Griffith. He was the role model. He was wise. He was a community servant. He did well by the people. Who do we have today? The role model for our police forces is Darth Vader, wearing a black helmet, bringing tyranny to our neighborhoods. Let's put them back in their places, but let's do it in the right way. Let's educate them. They are the government's servants of the people. The people still rule. We have to take that back. Same with our military. The military, they can't be used internally, and we're violating the laws and through executive orders and Congress. Congress, they need to stop all of this acts. They're passing acts faster than we can keep up with them. They don't even read them. They're being given them by lobbies, primarily Zionist lobbies, and the banking lobbies, and the multinational corporations. They're told what to get behind. These people are puppets. We need to stop all that. We need to get rid of most of the legislation that's been passed in the last few decades. We need to free the American worker, free the entrepreneur so they can get back to creating again and show that the American spirit is still alive. We can do it. We can turn this country around and be back on top in no time if we can wake up enough American people and show them what a true American patriot is. A true American patriot is not somebody banging the drums for war against Iran. A true American patriot says, let's get our house in order. Let's stop this control from this insidious group that over the last 100 years has taken over control of our country. Let's get a sound currency working again. Let's secure our borders. Let's stop these wars. Let's stop these occupations. Let's bring jobs back for American workers. Put tariffs up. Why should we send a Jeep to China that costs $30,000? They pay $75,000 because of the tariffs. They ship their goods in here, and we accept it. And as a result, they get all the business. We need to start producing in America again. We've got the resources to do it. Don't believe the lies that we don't have the natural resources. We have incredible reserves in this country. We have incredible technology, patents of which have been suppressed. We need to let the American spirit rise again. I've gone off on several tangents here, but let me close with one final statement, and that's, where do we go from here? What can I do? What can we do to take this gathering here today and spread the word and get it out so that it becomes a force that not only the ADL and Southern Poverty Law Center is a little concerned with and plays intimidation tactics, but let's get in their faces. When your politicians come home to you in your districts, confront them. Ask them, why are you passing amnesty? Why are you trying to write resolutions so that if Israel decides to bomb Iran, we will automatically go to war against Iran? What kind of treasonous behavior is that? Hold these politicians accountable. Put their feet to the fan. Do whatever you can to make them do their job. If they won't do their job, get them out of there. That's what we've got to do. We need a media. We need media, and it's going to grow from places like the American Free Press, a lot of alternative radio and television sources, but we need money, we need patriots, we need backing to have all this happen. I'm still looking to bring a bunch of patriot groups together in a way which can get politically active, whether it's a coalition effort or a new political party, something that can get the word out there where we can stump around the country and really spread the word about what's going on to our country. Maybe the public's not receptive just yet, but they will be in the next year or two, especially as our economy tanks, as these wars continue, as the amnesty is granted, as all those things that are leading to our destruction continue unabated. More and more people are going to start waking up and saying, why do we not have the quality of life we used to have? But I want to thank you all, and I leave you the final message. Do whatever we can. Let's take back America.
Those were the audios that I had set for the start. If you guys have anything else you would like to have on the air, go to ucy.tv. Sorry guys, my shoulder is hurting me like hell. Oops. Go to ucy.tv, mouse over shows, and click on any of them. Then you end up in the chat room. Poof. And paste your audio there, and I'll see what I can do to get that on the air. So, you know, the USS Liberty was one of the things pointed out to me after I had finished my 9/11 research. And I was like, okay, this is new. I never heard of that. You won't get this on the mainstream media usually, although I did find one video also that I'm not going to play, by the way, by Fox, who had actually covered this. So I hope more mainstream media will pay some attention to this in the right way and expose this false flag for what it is. Alright? So, I've got a couple of things open here also. So, hold on guys, I need to open this in a new... No, it's not gonna work. Alright. Tell you what, if you have audio that you want to hear, contact me on Skype. That you want to put on air, I mean. Contact me on Skype, that's SOLVINUR, Solvinur, SOLVINUR. Because I can't follow the chat right here, I'm gonna do some reading from USSLibertyVeterans.org. Also other websites that have some information about this. Alright. So, this is from USSLibertyVeterans.org. On June 8th, 1967, while patrolling in international waters in the eastern Mediterranean Sea, USS Liberty was savagely attacked without warning or justification by air and naval forces of the State of Israel. Of a crew of 294 officers and men, including 3 civilians, the ship suffered 34 killed in action and 173 wounded in action. The ship itself, $40 million state-of-the-art signal intelligence platform, was so badly damaged that it never sailed on an operational mission again and was sold in 1970 for $101,000 as scrap. Huh. At 1400 hours, while approximately about 17 nautical miles off the northern Sinai coast, about 25 nautical miles northwest of El Larish, USS Liberty crew observed 3 surface radar contacts closing with their position at high speed. A few moments later, the bridge radar crew observed high-speed aircraft passing over the surface, returns on the same heading. Within a few short moments and without any warning, Israeli fighter aircraft launched a rocket attack on USS Liberty. The aircraft made repeated firing passes, attacking USS Liberty with rockets and their internal cannons. After the first flight of fighter aircraft had exhausted their ordnance, subsequent flights of Israeli fighter aircraft continued to prosecute the attack with rockets, cannon fire and napalm. During the attack, USS Liberty's crew had difficulty contacting 6th Fleet to request assistance due to intense communications jamming. The initial targets on the ship were the command bridge, communications antennas, and the 4 50 caliber machine guns placed on the ship to repel boarders. After the Israeli fighter aircraft completed their attacks, 3 Israeli torpedo boats arrived and began a surface attack about 35 minutes after the start of the air attack. The torpedo boats launched a total of 5 torpedoes, one of which struck the side of the USS Liberty. opposite the ship's research spaces. 25 Americans, in addition to the 9 who had been killed in the earlier air attacks, were killed as a result of this explosion. Alright. Continuing this. The Department of Defense Law of War Program, there's a DoD Directive 2311.01e, formerly the DoD Directive 5100.77, provides that all reportable incidents committed by or against U.S. personnel, enemy persons, or any other individual are reported promptly, investigated thoroughly, and where appropriate, remedied by corrective action. On June 8, 2005, the USS Liberty Veterans Association submitted a report on war crimes committed against USS Liberty, June 8, 1967, to the Department of Defense in accordance with the DoD Law of War Program. The war crimes report we filed lists allegations of acts committed during the attack on our ship, including the jamming of our radios on both U.S. Navy tactical and international maritime distress frequencies, the use of unmarked aircraft by the forces attacking the USS Liberty. Yeah, fracking cowards. The deliberate machine gunning of life rafts we had dropped over the side in anticipation of abandoning ship. Yeah. Can you believe these people that actually did this, that were in the planes? Unbelievable, right? Fracking traitors. The recall of 2 flights of rescue aircraft that had been launched from 6th Fleet aircraft carriers. After those flights were recalled, 6th Fleet personnel listened to our calls for help as the attack continued, knowing they were forbidden to come to our assistance. Yeah. Then the Department of Defense has unilaterally waived its obligation under the Department of Defense Law of War Program by refusing to investigate the allegations contained in the War Crimes Report. The Department of Defense has also refused to provide a speaker to address the crew of the USS Liberty and explain their actions with regard to the War Crimes Report. Alright, so that's that. There's more. But first, let's see who's in the chat. Welcome everybody, Ben Jovi, Del NC, Dan, Home Jim, Joe, Judas Crowley, SLC Mike, Vincent Cap Gringo, and an Anon. By the way, tomorrow, guys, 8 p.m. EST, debut of Judas Crowley, so check it out. 8 p.m. EST, Sundays. New radio, guys. Alright. Next is from... guess I'm gonna do this next. USSLiberty.com, USS-Liberty.com. USS Liberty cover-up. On June 8, 1967, the USS Liberty was deliberately attacked by Israel. 40 years later, the crew still calls for a proper investigation. Justice still missing for Liberty. By Journal Staff on Friday, June 15, 2012, this is. On June 8, 1967, Israeli warplanes and torpedo boats attacked in international waters the American intelligence vessel USS Liberty, killing 34 American sailors and wounding 174. American carrier planes were launched but immediately recalled by President Lyndon Johnson, who said that he did not want to embarrass my ally, who at the moment were strafing the Liberty's life rafts. Yeah, so how did he know that, right? How did he know it was his quote-unquote ally? Despite the National Security Agency withholding tapes and documents that bear on the matter, there is an overwhelming evidence, including NSA intercepts of the pilot's transmission, that this was a deliberate attack, seemingly designed to keep the US from knowing of Israel's impending attack on the Golan Heights, which Washington opposed. I also heard of another possibility that might have been the aim. So this went wrong, right, for the Israelis. It went wrong, luckily, because the ship didn't sink. But if it had sunk, the claim could have been that it was the Egyptians that did this, and then using it as a false flag to attack Egypt. That's a remote possibility, I guess. It's probably more like what you heard in the video about the Golan Heights. The Liberty sailors were ordered to be silent on pain of court-martial, and the Navy conducted a superficial investigation, admitting that its purpose was not to assign culpability. Yeah. Why is that? To this day, the official position of the Israeli and American government is that the incident was an accident, which is about as likely as the attack on Pearl Harbor being accidental. Yeah. Next is from May 30, 2012. This past Memorial Day, by the way, about the previous thing, that it was an accident, that's impossible, because the USS Liberty was carrying an American flag. Alright, so it's impossible. This past Memorial Day, President Barack Obama offered Vietnam veterans a welcome home. Feel the nation... What? Feel the nation never gave them? What's that word feel doing in there? Maybe my English is not of that high standard, but I don't understand this sentence. Obama commemorated the 50th anniversary of the start of the war at the Vietnam Veterans Memorial Wall in Washington, D.C. on May 28th. We strongly urge... Something is wrong with the picture here, guys. So I can't read this whole thing. That's why the feel is confusing. Let me see if I can fix this. No, I can't fix this. Maybe if I reload it. Let me see. Reloading this page. No, it's still not fixed. I'll try and read it anyway. We strongly urge President Obama to commemorate a group of Vietnam-era veterans who have been given the silent treatment, or worse, ever since they returned home 45 years ago. Survivors of Israel's June 8, 1967 attack on the USS Liberty, which killed 34 Americans and wounded 170 more. Were forbidden to discuss Israel's attack and subsequent recall of the U.S. aircraft sent to assist their sinking ship. Their stricken ship, not sinking. Okay. Let's hope I can read the following articles better. because half of the sentences are missing. This is by Gilad Edzmon, remembering the liberty 45 years later and still no answer. Back in 2009 in Houston, Texas, Mimi Adams, a distinguished Palestinian solidarity and human rights activist, gave me a present, a USS Liberty baseball cap. She put it on my head and said, "Gilad, in the next 2 weeks make sure you have it on your head everywhere you go in America. You will see what happens." Huh. It was around midnight. I was tired and jet-lagged. I couldn't really understand the significance of the baseball cap. I just wanted to make my way to the hotel room and catch some sleep. At 7 a.m. in the airport, on my way to the gate, with the USS Liberty baseball cap on my head, just before boarding on a flight to San Francisco, I noticed an older guy chasing me. He was breathless and agitated. "Sorry to bother you. Were you on the USS Liberty?" he asked. "No," I said. "I was actually 4 years old in 1967. Amused, I admitted that the baseball cap was given to me by a friend in a Palestinian solidarity gathering just a few hours ago. I asked him, what did he know about the USS Liberty? "I was a 6th Navy pilot," he said. "We were deployed to the Mediterranean Sea. On that day in June 1967, we heard it all. The sailors on board of the Liberty, they were begging for help. It was a real agony. We were fuming. We wanted to get on the planes. We were about 10-12 minutes away. We wanted to save our brothers, but they didn't let us onto the deck." On June 8, 1967, USS Liberty, an American auxiliary technical research ship, a military vessel specialized in gathering intelligence, was attacked by Israeli forces. It was subject to an 18 hours combined air and sea raids that left 34 American crew members dead. Alright, so there's a little bit of confusion about the time that it was under attack. I've heard 76 minutes, I've heard 2 hours, now it's 18 hours. So, that's confusing, right? It was subject to an 18 hours combined air and sea raids that left 34 American crew members dead, naval officers, seamen, 2 Marines and 1 civilian, and 170 injured. The attack also severely damaged the ship. Like the Mavi Marmana, at the time of the attack, the ship was in international waters, north of the Sinai Peninsula, about 50 kilometers northwest from the Egyptian city of El Arish. El Arish, yeah, right. Phil Turney is a USS Liberty survivor, and like many of his friends who were lucky enough to survive that hot day in June 1967, the event changed his life. I met Phil in Aspen last March. I spent some good hours together with the great man and his lovely wife. We shared our personal stories and thoughts about Israel, America and the Jewish lobby with a few friends and listeners. When it was time to depart, Philip left me with what I saw that day, a devastating biographical account written by Phil and the courageous truth-teller journalist Mark Glenn. This book is the story of a man who survived the murderous Israeli aggression, but it is also the story of a man who has witnessed 4 decades of deceit. The event which Phil saw that day is something most of us have failed to see for decades. What I saw that day is a story of America turning its back on its servicemen. It is a story about Israelis slaughtering in cold blood American sailors on the high sea. But it is also a story about a man who battles with wounds and scars that have refused to heal for 45 years. Yeah, right. I mean, you're an American soldier and you're on the ship and you're being attacked. All right, that's part of the duty of being a soldier, right? But then to have the American government turn on you, that's such a stab in the back. It's unbelievable. It is a book about the American servicemen being deceived and neglected by American political and military elite. What I saw that day is also a personal, painful account of the tragic consequences of Israeli and Jewish lobby domination in America. Think AIPAC, right? The survival of the USS Liberty was nothing but a miracle. The ship was an old World War II one-goer that was converted into a military intelligence vessel. It wasn't built to stand a combat. It wasn't structured to take any penalty. Yeah, the only defense that this ship had were some guns to keep other people from boarding the ship, right? And to keep enemies from boarding the ship. That was the only defense it had. And yet, it somehow survived hours of heavy Israeli raids. Yeah. I wonder that too. How you can see this pictures of the hole that was blown in this ship. Unbelievable how it got to port, right? Sturdy ship, huh? The USS Liberty is there to remind us, our leaders, the Israelis and their lobbies, that the memory of this massacre is not going to sink either. Yeah, that's one of the reasons why I decided to spend today on the USS Liberty. You gotta keep it going, you know, keep talking about this. Do not let it die. That's why. Like the Nakba and the Holodomor, the USS Liberty bounced back. Seemingly, injustice cannot be suppressed. It always waits patiently for humanity to transform history into a moral lesson. This horrendous story has been silenced for decades, but not anymore. What Philip Turney saw that day was just a glimpse into the magnitude of Western immorality and barbarism. Yeah. It says here, Western with a capital W. It's not the whole Western society, guys. It's just a few people pulling the strings. Few psychopaths pulling the strings. Since then, you know, because going off on a tangent here, but I can't seem to shut up about these Muslims. You know, how they treat their women, for instance. That is not the Western way. All right. Their Sharia law, that is not a Western way, it's barbaric. That's what it is. Alright, so I don't want to let this slip into an attack on Western society. That's not it. Continuing. Since then, many American soldiers lost their life in Zionist global wars. Millions of Muslims and Arabs have been slaughtered in wicked interventionist conflicts. To save our homes, families, friends, dignity, and the world as we know it, is to stand up for the truth and to call a spade a spade. Alright, here's another video. Maybe we should play this. Let's see if this works, guys. Let me know in chat if it goes wrong, okay? What's up? Let's see if this works. Some pictures of war. You can all find this at ussliberty.com, guys. uss-liberty.com.
In the early 1960s, the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, L.O. Lemonster, concocted a plan for false flag operations as a pretext to invade Cuba and for war with the Soviet Union. In Operation Northwoods, they planned to hijack jets by remote control, crash them, and blame the attack on Cuba. There were many other terrorist attacks they planned to carry out that were contained within the document. One scenario mentioned was the destruction of a U.S. naval vessel that was to be blamed on a foreign power as a pretext for war with any enemy they picked. President Lyndon Baines Johnson went operational with Northwoods on June 8, 1967 during the Six-Day War. During the Six-Day War between Israel and the Arab nations, the USS Liberty was sent by Johnson to collect electronic intelligence in the eastern Mediterranean. The clearly marked U.S. intelligence ship was 14 miles off the coast of Israel in international waters.
A short time after the air attack had been completed, the 3 torpedo boats approached us from our starboard quarter at high speed and in an apparent torpedo launch attitude.
Israeli surveillance aircraft flew low over the ship and clearly identified it as an American vessel. At 2 p.m. that afternoon, the USS Liberty was attacked by 3 Mirage 3 fighter bombers. From the onset of the attack, the fighter bombers were jamming U.S. signals. Not only were they jamming U.S. signals specifically, they were also unmarked, the only unmarked aircraft in Israel's arsenal. The fighter bombers strafed the ships with their cannons, dropped conventional munitions and napalm on the ship, repeatedly from stem to stern. After the Mirages had done their work, the ship was hit by medium bomber Dassault missiles carrying napalm and other munitions like white phosphorus. The USS Liberty was then attacked by 3 Israeli torpedo boats bearing Israeli flags. The torpedo gunboats opened fire with high-caliber machine guns and launched torpedoes. A single torpedo struck the ship, blowing a hole in both sides, entering the ship and leaving a 30-foot exit hole when it exploded. Then the torpedo boats began strafing life rafts in the water, an international war crime. While all of this was happening, the oversized American flag flew clearly above the ship. The attack on the Liberty went on for hour after hour after hour. During the entire attack, the USS Liberty continually called the 6th Fleet that was nearby, begging for air support or rescue. 2 aircraft carriers in the Med responded by launching fighter aircraft. Unbelievably, they were recalled by the White House. Rear Admiral Geist, then commanding the carriers in the 6th Fleet, called Washington personally to confirm the recall order. Secretary of Defense McNamara came on the line, and then President Johnson himself told Geist, "I want that goddamn ship going to the bottom. No help. Recall the wings." Imagine being Admiral Geist begging the president to allow you to defend an American ship that's under attack and being told by him that he wants the ship going to the bottom. Despite the fact that the U.S. carriers withdrew their help, a Russian spy ship appeared and witnessed part of the attack. After 3 hours into the attack, the Israelis withdrew because there were witnesses, allowing the damaged USS Liberty to limp to safety. 40 years after the attack on the USS Liberty, we know exactly what happened. I've interviewed former chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, Admiral Thomas Moore. I've interviewed the admirals that were on the line who heard what President Johnson said. I've even talked to the head JAG officer of the Navy who was ordered to falsify the reports and cover up what had really happened. One of the Israeli pilots has gone public as well, saying that 3 times he refused over his radio to headquarters to attack the ship, saying clearly that it was an American ship in international waters and an ally. He was ordered under threat of court-martial to engage the ship. In a nutshell, this is what happened. President Johnson had personal control over the ship, parked it in the Mediterranean, made a backroom deal with Israel to attack it, with an order to kill all aboard. Then the attack on the ship was to be blamed on Egypt. The U.S. would enter the war and take over the entire Middle East in the aftermath of the attack on the most highly decorated ship in U.S. history. The captain and his entire crew were told they would spend life in prison or be killed if they told anyone what happened. Captain William L. McGonigal was given the Congressional Medal of Honor in secret and told not to tell anyone that he had won the award.
All right. That was that. So, let's continue with the rest of this. Next. Waterloo sailor recalls fatal 67 U.S.-Israeli skirmish. Waterloo, Iowa. Joe Carpenter has more questions than answers about what happened on June 8, 1967, but no questions about the valor of his shipmates. Carpenter, a 1965 West High School graduate, was a crew member of the USS Liberty. The U.S. Navy ship was attacked by Israeli forces during the 1967 Six-Day War, in which Israel defeated a host of Arab nations and captured the Sinai Peninsula, Gaza Strip, West Bank, Golan Heights and East Jerusalem. Yeah. That's what you get for allowing them land in that area. You know, that whole thing stinks, right? I mean, if you're going to give these people some land, why do it exactly in the middle of an area where you know they are going to be opposed, right? It was, as far as I'm concerned, it's just my opinion, right? But it was a land grab. It was stealing of land. As far as I'm concerned, the whole state of Israel is not legal or lawful, whatever you want to call it. I have no, I don't even know the difference between legal or lawful. So there you go, because that whole thing about legal and lawful, it's above my head. But it shouldn't exist. Yeah? That's my opinion. Carpenter, a 1965 West High School graduate, was a crew member of the USS Liberty. The U.S. Navy ship was attacked by Israeli forces during the 1967 Six-Day War. All right, just read that. 34 of Carpenter's shipmates were killed and 174 wounded. 2/3 of the crew of 294. Carpenter himself was reported to have been severely wounded when he was mistaken for another J. Carpenter on the ship. Friday is the 45th anniversary of the Liberty incident. Peace organizations are planning observances in Iowa City and Cedar Rapids. Carpenter was no part of anyone's political agenda. Some of the guys on the ship got consumed with this, he said. I didn't do that. He believed his shipmates, particularly those who fought fires, kept the ship afloat and tended to the wounded, should be remembered for their heroism along with those wounded or killed. Though the U.S. was officially neutral in the conflict, Israel and the U.S. traditionally had been considered friends. Initially, Carpenter thought the attack was from an Arab nation. Myself, I thought it was probably Egypt, Carpenter said, but the attacking plans and torpedo boats were identified as Israeli. It was ironic, given the pro-Israel sentiments of much of the Liberty's crew. I just don't get that, right? How can Americans be pro-Israel? That just doesn't make any sense to me. It's not even a neighboring country, right? It's so far away, yet there are Americans that are pro-Israel. Get your head in order. You have nothing to do with that faraway country. How about you be pro-American instead of pro-Israel? We could see the war on the coast. We could see the planes, Carpenter said. We were cheering the Israelis and they came out and shot at us. Israel claimed the Liberty was mistaken for an Egyptian vessel. Yeah, with an American flag on it, right? Others have suggested the attack was deliberate. U.S. official reports say the Liberty was flying an American flag. Now, 45 years later, Carpenter thinks the truth may never be known despite numerous investigations by both sides. Both sides? Who's the other side? Is that supposed to be lying Israel? I would like to hear the Russian account of this, because they had a ship in the neighborhood. He believed Congress should have held hearings, but the principals who were involved are all dead, Carpenter said. I would have liked to have seen McNamara grilled. Yeah, that's grilling is as I understand that word anyway, is just somebody speaking at him. All right, that's not acceptable. Yeah, that's too low. All right. Carpenter said Robert S. McNamara, United States Defense Secretary under Presidents Kennedy and Johnson, died in 2009. Yeah. He shouldn't have been grilled. He should have been put before a court and judged as a traitor. That's what it should have been happening. Some have suggested U.S. officials downplayed the incident to preserve relations with Israeli, and may even have been negligent in a military response to support the Liberty. Alright. Okay, but awesome. Hold on, guys. I'm gonna do something here. Let's see. Here we go. Interrupting this for a special event. Yeah. Let's see what we can do here. Blah, blah. Are you there, buddy? No, he's not there yet. Let's see what's going on here. You can see a picture, but hey, there we go.
Well, hello, Walter.
Hey, welcome to the Solvinur Event, James.
I think, if I'm not mistaken, this is my first time on Solvinur Event. Maybe I might have come on it a long time ago when you were at Orion.
Yeah, hold on, let me fix this. Opala. Are you there?
Yes.
All right. Yeah, once we made radio together. That was a long time ago, though.
Yeah, and in regards to McNamara, he shouldn't be grilled. He should be strapped to a gurney with a lie detector and a vial of sodium pentothal.
Yeah, something like that. How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing very well, man. I missed most of your show. I've had the Time Warner cable guys here for the last 2 hours.
All right. Yeah, I played the videos that you pasted to me, and that was good.
Yeah. We had Phil Turney was supposed to be at Freedom Palooza last year. But as you know, these guys are these survivors of this attack from 1967 are in their 60s now. You know what I mean? Pushing 70. So it's hard for a lot of them. They're all dying off slowly now. And the truth, I mean, if ever there is a real inquiry, you know, there's not going to be any live, any eyewitnesses left. And you have John McCain's father, the admiral, who helped cover it up. Now, here's a little part of the storyline that most people aren't familiar with. Is Rear Admiral Morrison, Jim Morrison of the Doors' father, who was a Rear Admiral. He was trying to start an inquiry. He wanted to know what happened to the USS Liberty, and then then he all of a sudden dropped the issue. I don't know. You know, we are conspiratorial, but you know, there you have the fact that his son died from a heroin overdose. You know, here's a young man who never did heroin, or maybe you know what I mean. He wasn't a heroin addict. Jim Morrison. Jim Morrison was, you know, you could call him an alcoholic, you could call him a psychedelic, you know, he took acid and mushrooms and things like that, but all of our great, you know, Jimi Hendrix, again, another guy that didn't really do heroin, but died from, you know what I mean? So, well, the event, the USS Liberty, of which we are at the anniversary of, what is this, the
46th, I believe.
45th or 46th anniversary of this attack, and they knew full well that they were attacking a U.S. ship. I mean, they were flying a U.S. flag. It was an unarmed ship, and you know, an espionage or an information intelligence gathering ship. Yeah. So, and the whole thing just stinks to high heaven. And Phil Turney was there, and you know, I respect the guy because at the very end, just before U.S. Planes actually did arrive, finally, after, what, was it 18 hours or so of them floating dead in the water, after having all their lifeboats gunned, after being torpedoed and cannoned. The Israelis were bringing in a boarding crew, and apparently as the helicopter, and he could see the boarding crew, they were coming in to mop up and finish off the job, and Phil flipped them off as they turned around and flew away, and they were hoping that ship would sink and take everybody with it, and of course they would have blamed it on Egypt. Some of the things that people don't know are not aware of is the mass execution of hundreds of Egyptian prisoners of war that were happening right on the coast, right off the coast right on the coast from where the Liberty was stationed, and obviously probably would have, you know, and you just made a point about the Russians. The Russians were there too. So you know, but I've never actually heard their version of what happened that day.
Yeah, they were there with some spy ship also, I think.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. That place during the I mean, that whole area was lousy with spooks.
Yeah,
it had to be. I mean, you look at it. Israel didn't go to war by itself. They had the backing of the U.S. You know. LBJ gave them the go-ahead.
Yeah,
Robert McNamara.
You interviewed this man. What's his name again?
Phil Turney. Yeah, I've met Phil and interviewed him. Yeah.
Is that still available somewhere?
I'll have to dig through my archives. I'm not sure if it's still available. Dougie let the servers go, so.
Okay. Yeah, we should put that on YouTube or something.
If I do have it. Well, I'm hoping just to get them at Freedom Pleases this summer, and I'll just have the video of it. My buddy Merlin Miller is making he's involved with a movie that's going to be coming out pretty soon about the USS Liberty.
False Flag.
Yeah, yes, that's the one. I mean, and it's obvious, you know. There was more than one unit. They shot the first flag up, so they managed to get another flag up, a smaller flag.
Yeah,
it was obviously marked. There was a U.S. ship. Everybody knew it, and the only thing that was unmarked were the jets attacking the U.S. ship.
Yeah,
a flag flying ship. That was an act of war.
Yeah. I wouldn't even call it an act of war. It's worse than that. It's betrayal. Sorry?
That was a terrorist attack.
Exactly, yeah. That's what I would call it, indeed.
It's
worse
than the
war.
Levant affair. Israel's been caught over and over and over. They were caught in Iraq wearing Iraqi military uniforms, shooting at U.S. troops. I mean, they are not our friend. Yeah, I'll find you that. I'll source that for you.
Awesome.
The Levant affair, caught dressed as Egyptians, I believe it was, trying to blow up Americans or trying to blow up Brits at the King David Hotel.
Yeah.
The Israelis have never been friends of the Americans. We give them our money, we give them our blood, and we give them our undying loyalty, and we get in return what is typical of Zionists, a stab in the back.
Yeah. Do you have I'm sorry to ask you this, but do you have a working definition for Zionism? Because I've heard so many explanations of what it is, but...
Well, you have to go back to Russia, to the Bolsheviks in Russia, where the Zionism, it was a philosophy. The way I understood it is it's a political movement, but it began as a philosophy. Marxism was a science, more than just a political system. Marxism was a science, and Zionism, again, I don't know. Everybody has their own views or their own definitions, and I don't really have the definition that the people on my side throw out there, or however you want to put it. No, to answer the question.
Oh, the phone seems to be set, so I need to keep an eye on that.
So you can take calls.
Yeah, so what is it? What's the number?
Oh, I have it here. Hold on. I was giving it out backwards last week. Call-in number is 718-717-8296.
Yeah.
718-717-8296 to call the show.
Yeah, and I'll need to keep an eye on how that works, because I don't think I ever...
Well, if somebody calls, it'll come up on your Skype. And
all right.
Rather than answer, don't just hit answer. You just hit add to or join. I forgot what it is, but
yeah, add to conference.
Add to conference. Yeah, so it's
all
simple.
right. So 716. What is it again?
718-717-8296. That's 718-717-8296.
All right, people, if you want to call in, I should be able to pick you up.
Yeah. I got about 8 more minutes before I have to take off. I just wanted to make sure. I didn't want to leave you hanging.
No, it's okay. Don't worry about it. I've got enough stuff to cover.
Well, I can tell you this. All the survivors from the Liberty, every last one of them feels betrayed. And they've all been threatened with...
Yeah, I can understand that they feel betrayed.
Now, has anyone ever been held accountable? No. Absolutely not.
Yeah.
At the very least, accountability.
Yeah.
We don't want to end that's all most people like us are asking for is accountability. We're held accountable. You're held accountable.
Yeah.
You can't do almost anything without being held accountable.
Exactly. They will get you. They will get the small man on the street if you do anything wrong, right?
Absolutely. And I don't have a problem holding myself accountable. You know what I'm saying? It cleans your conscience. It gives you, you know what I'm saying? It gives you the proverbial clean slate.
Mm-hmm. All right. So, this man you interviewed, what's his name again?
Phil Turney.
Phil Turney. Yeah, I'm so bad with names. I don't remember.
That's okay. He was a survivor. He's not by any means the only one, but he's friends with some of my friends down at American Free Press. So,
what was his duty on the ship?
Radio operator. I can't remember.
All right.
I'm coming into this drive with no notes.
Yeah, it's no problem. Don't worry about it. And then, but I guess he changed to helping others and making the ship not sink at that point.
Well, once the attack was finally, absolutely. Everybody became a medic once half the medical staff were murdered by the Israelis, and they lost half their crew. You know what I mean? They had people that were cut right in half.
Yeah.
And so triage and all that was what they did, is they limped to an American base.
Yeah.
And as Phil said, he was going to stay on that ship till it made it back to America.
Yeah. Yeah, unbelievable. Anything you remember from the interview?
Sure. I mean, what do you want to know? I vaguely can recall the dialogue, but I'm also familiar with the story.
I
think you probably covered it all.
I think I probably covered it all.
Just recently, a few years ago, an Israeli pilot who allegedly came out to say that they knew that they knew full well that was an American ship, that they were sent anyways.
So one thing that confuses me is these reports about how long it took, because one says 76 minutes, another says 2 hours, then I hear 18 hours. Did you ask him about that? How long the attack actually took?
The actual attack? Well, I thought it was, in the 18 hours. I thought they attacked several times. First they attacked with gunboats, torpedo boats, then they came in with jets. They attacked with helicopters. They were trying to sink that ship.
And all these 18 hours, they were not helped by anybody?
They were tried, right from McNamara all the way up to LBJ himself, allegedly put the kibosh on any assistance. There were other ships in the region. The Sixth Fleet was there. There was the USS Saratoga, who launched. The Saratoga actually launched scrambled jets to come to their aid, but were ordered back and scrambled again. The McNamara ordered them back the first time, and the second time the orders came straight from the top, from the COC, the Commander-in-Chief, CIC.
Yeah, and it was a World War II ship, so that's pretty old, right? It's 1967, so it's a very old ship, right?
What, the Liberty?
Yeah.
No, the Liberty was... Well, the ship itself may have been, but the technology on board was state-of-the-art. It was...
Yeah, that's true, yeah.
That had listening... It was a surveillance ship.
Yeah.
And it was a state-of-the-art surveillance ship at the time.
Yeah.
I mean, today you could probably do the same thing with a couple of iPhones and a laptop, but... It looks like... Yeah, so it was, whether the ship itself was old, the technology on board was state-of-the-art, was not antiquated, because it was, like I said, it was a surveillance ship.
Yeah.
It was clearly marked. All the survivors say the same thing. We were clearly marked.
Yeah. We have another caller. So you had to go, right, Jay?
Yeah, I actually do. And now the excuse of the Israelis is they thought it was an Egyptian barge. But the thing of it is you have to set the depth on torpedoes.
And they were different ships. Yeah.
Yes, they were different ships. The depth set for the Egyptian barge would never have hit. They would have, sailed right below.
Yeah, yeah.
So yeah, I actually do. Hey man, I will. Jeepers, sorry about that. I will come on your show. I'll hang out with you again.
Awesome.
But this has been a crazy weekend for me. It's the field days and my kids all want to go and have fun. So
all right, man. Take care.
Well, thanks.
Thanks for calling, buddy.
Yep. Absolutely.
See you next time. Vincent,
hey, Walter.
Are you there, buddy?
Yay, good to talk to you, Walter. How are you this morning?
I'm all right. How are you?
I'm great. It's like, 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning over there?
No, it's 17:29.
So, it's in the evening. Yeah.
Well, almost evening, yeah. And you are? What time are you?
I'm 8:30 on the Pacific Coast.
8:30. All right, that's a big difference.
So you're like 5 in the evening then?
Yeah, it's 5:30. Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, I just wanted to weigh in a little bit. You know, Israel and the United States, you know, make up the those two strong arms that are the military-industrial complex, you know, that's ruling the world and enforcing, you know, edicts for the world banks. Now, a lot of people, especially Americans, have this false idea of Israel, you know, because of the predominant Christian view that Israel is somehow sacred and that, you know, they're God's people.
What does Israel have to do with Christianity? I mean, they don't even believe in Jesus Christ, them Jews.
Yeah.
So.
See, this goes back to the Counter-Reformation, and the papacy wanted to, you know, dispel the ideas that, you know, they were the beast talked about, that this in-town power, and then, you know, they came up with this different theology and translated the 70th week to the end of time, and that's where these Christians get this false idea of a 7-year tribulation and a rapture, you know. Like I said, it was a translation by a Jesuit back in, you know, 1500s for the Martin Luther movement.
Uh-huh.
Anyway, so by the theology, the teachings in Israel was still God's chosen people, and that, like in 1949, it's supposedly this fulfillment of prophecy that Israel was going to, you know, become a state and all this. So when you can take any kind of old writings and apply it for something today, then of course, you know, you can get off on any number of notions as far as you know, these false paradigms of religion. So with that, you know, Israel can do no wrong. We have to protect them from the evil Muslims and so forth. You know,
Mm-hmm.
It's all a matter of, you know, the power structure shift, and we find it throughout history. You know, they've moved it, you know, from the Vatican. That's when you know, Rome took over and became an adapted religion, and so then they controlled through the Middle Ages and so forth with the church. And you know, the power bases, you know, you find them in D.C., London, and the Vatican there. And,
those three, yeah, political, economic, and religious.
Yeah, so it's all, you know, just deceiving people, and you know, the sleight of hand and the little magic tricks and smoke and mirrors and illusion and so forth. How they control the structure of the world. So when you get people that are so buried in their belief that you know, that exists no other possibility for what's going on in the world, then, you know, of course, then those people are condemned to you know, be no more than servants and slaves of the system, and that's what they want. So.
All right, Vince, I got another caller. You mind if I take him?
Not at all. I'll mute up and I'll hear you.
173, you're on the air. How you doing?
All right, George, how are you? This is Chuck Rocelli. I do a show on the network with you, too, a little later on tonight. But, you know, the USS Liberty incident is an interesting study because, quite honestly, that ship just about was crippled. It was absolutely crippled, but it was just about sent to the bottom.
Uh-huh.
And had there not been witnesses to what was going on, had there not been the possibility of the world pretty much finding out what was going on, you know, I think we wouldn't be talking to any survivors today. You know, and JJ having talked to survivors is very interesting. It's
yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. But the interplay there between, you know, even McNamara becoming involved in the situation, this was kind of interesting because if this was a real incident that wasn't known about in advance, you know, by our people ostensibly, you know, then this would not have played out the same way.
Yeah, if the United States had not known, they would have reacted as if it was a real enemy force, right?
Well, that's the thing, is you don't see the action to try and stop it. You don't see the call of support. When the people that weren't in the loop about it, they did dispatch, you know, some fighter jets to try and investigate the situation, or, you know, depending on who you talk to, it was either to investigate the situation or to engage. And they were called back.
Yeah.
You know, and those orders came from the top. And it's just one of those examples where you have things being conducted for a military objective, and the people that are involved in the operation are not aware. I mean, it would have been nearly as useful to sink an empty ship and claim that there were people dead on it. You know what I mean? But but instead they did this, and I appreciate that you're discussing this topic, because this is one of those examples where people that are not of the mindset of questioning what the authorities do need to understand that the argument about they're working on our behalf and they're protecting their troops, their soldiers, they're protecting us, need to understand that these types of things have been occurring for a long time and are still going on.
Yes.
And so I really think it's great that you're covering this, because it's one of those things that outside of, I know you played that clip from one of the few documentaries that's mentioned it in recent years and all that, but there really has not been enough coverage of this. So.
No, people don't know. I didn't know, until after my 9/11 research. I got to know lots of things. USS Liberty was one of them, and because it's tomorrow is the Memorial Day, right?
Right.
Yeah, I figured we should give some attention to this, and probably do it next year as well. You have a radio show also? Let us hear about it. When is it?
No, it's the Ocelli Effect. Will be on tonight at 8 p.m. on UCY.
8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time?
Eastern Standard Time, yeah, or Eastern Daylight Time.
All right. Is it every day or what?
No, just Saturday night, and Tuesday and Thursday it's on at 6.
Oh, okay, very good. Vincent, you got a radio show as well?
I do. Right now it's fire in the hole. You got me joking.
Lol.
In order for Jax, he had a good idea, so we sparked it up. Yeah, I'm on Thursday nights. I follow Chuck Ocelli on Thursdays, and that is at 5 o'clock on the Pacific Coast, and over on the East Coast it is at 8 o'clock Thursday nights. And then Double Cross follows me. So I am sandwiched right in between two really great shows, so that allows me the mediocrity that I am.
And
you
also do some music on your radio, is that correct?
I did last week, yeah. We did some a little bit of live strumming, and I think we're going to do some more music. Another friend of mine, we got some music, and going to get in probably with a mandolin and guitar.
Yeah, that was a good initiative. It was very nice to hear.
Right on. I'm glad you were there. A lot of shout-outs for you there. I smoked a few cigarettes in your honor.
Just because I'm Dutch or what?
Well, we always hear you in the background. Like this. Wait. Yeah, usually when you hear that on my end, it's either a bowl or a cigarette, so... Yeah,
those are my cigarettes. I smoke Ruba, it's tobacco, but yeah.
Yeah, they've taxed it so bad over here. I got some roll-ups here. It's called Dark Horse, but pretty good tobacco. But man, I'll tell you what, I'm used to them Taylor mags and Ready Rolls, and these things will choke you after a while.
Yeah, they do. And I don't have much trouble with it. I'm smoking for 30 years or now or so. And I'm still not squeaking like so, but it does, influence your whole health. Yeah, sure.
I've been smoking about 40, and so remember, nobody likes a quitter, so keep it up.
Yeah, there's one thing I would like to say about that, and it's only a very small possibility, right? But it may help against the chemtrails, because that stuff, gets stuck on the rest of the junk that's in your lungs, and then you cough it out, right?
Yeah, that's one way I can... Hey, big old bong rips are good for your health. It helps you cough all that stuff out.
What was that, Ocelli?
I say that's one good reason for me to keep smoking too. So, because I'm at about 30 years myself. Yeah, but look, I'm going to jump off now, but I just wanted to tell you that I'm really happy to hear that I'm not the only one who goes back into history and discusses, pivotal events, and I'm glad that you're focusing on this one, because personally, although I have some knowledge on it, I don't feel confident enough to do a whole show on it, but one of these days, you know what, if you want, I could even do one with you.
Yes, that would be nice. Contact me on Skype at Solvinur, and we will see what we can do. Listen, don't be afraid if you have not enough knowledge. I'm not an expert on the USS Liberty myself. I just read from sites, ussliberty.com or whatever. So don't worry about that. We are not professionals, so to speak, right? We do this because we have to. And not because we make money or anything, right?
Absolutely. I'll tell you what, if you want, just Charles.Ochelli, spelled Ochelli. You send me a Skype contact, and I'll send you at least some links to some documentaries about the USS Liberty that I've watched. We can get together on that stuff, maybe exchange information.
All right.
And one of these days we'll do a special on it if you want, and devote the full 2 hours. See if we can get some people that were actually there or were involved. At one time, I spoke to McNamara briefly.
Oh.
I never got to really get deep in depth with him about too many things. Well, in the course of researching the JFK assassination, I was curious to speak to the guy. He was speaking at a university in New York. I think it was 2001, between 2001 and 2003, somewhere in there. And I just kind of found out about it last minute and went down there and got a few minutes with him.
Oh, awesome.
But at that time, I was more interested in his interaction with the Kennedy, with the Kennedy administration, because he's one of the holdovers from the Kennedy administration. And he was actually there to discuss the, the development of, mutually assured destructive deterrent, and how that became, part of the philosophy, so to speak, of the Defense Department and this and that, which is very relevant and something that I mentioned recently when I was discussing nuclear weapons and nuclear energy on my show as well. But I wasn't even aware of the USS Liberty at the time. Just like you, I came to it through my 9/11 research.
Okay.
You know, and I said, "Wow, I can't believe that I never heard of this."
Exactly.
Honestly.
So it's Charles.Ochelli. Is that Ochelli?
That's me, yep.
All right, I'll send you a contact request, buddy.
Yeah, it's just on my contact, it's Charles and then dot, because, my regular name like that. And anybody who wants to drop to me on Skype can do that as well. I will accept all contacts. I may not keep them all, but yours I will keep.
All right, buddy. Thanks for calling.
Oh, absolutely, man. And please continue on with this, because I'm, like I said, I'm very happy to hear someone else who discusses the history, because sometimes, we get very much involved in the current events, and we don't draw the line to figure out how these things came to be, how the conditions exist, how it is that a government could suddenly operate like this. It's not sudden. It's something that's been going on for a very long time. And these are the things that we have some proof of. If you just gather a few of these things together, you can only imagine the amount of stuff that is still yet to be discovered.
Yep.
And I hope that people listening out there will dig for themselves, will think for themselves, and see the same thing that we are seeing, which is a very ugly echo, which is supposed to be... Yeah.
That's putting it mildly.
Exactly, sir. Yeah. Exactly, sir. So thank you for having me on, and really, I appreciate what you're doing.
Thanks, buddy. Take care.
Take care.
All right. So, Vince, anything else you want to mention?
Hey, yeah, let me give the rundown for Saturday lineup here on UCY if I can.
Sure, buddy.
All right. Hey, we started back. Jeff Wefferson, sorry, I messed his name up. He came back over, and now he's starting out the first thing Saturday mornings here, and it's really a good spot for him. It's really peaceful, animal sounds, and he's soft spoken. So really great spot for Jeff Wefferson. And then you come on 2 hours, really great show. Love your show, Walter. And then we'll have some time with Webster Tarpley following you. And then after that, at 2 o'clock Eastern and 11 a.m. out here on the Pacific Coast, it's a nuclear hot seat with Libby Howell-Levy. And today she'll be talking about Radiation and Public Health Project and sheds the International Atomic Energy. Anyways, yeah, always great information about the nuclear industry and so forth there. So let me roll back up here and get to the rest of that. Okay. We have following, sorry. Yeah. Okay, then Dane Wigington and Russ Tanner, Richard Sachs with Geoengineering, and that's at 3 o'clock Eastern.
Mm-hmm.
After that, we have Unlock the Door, and that's an hour later, then at 5 p.m. on the East Coast. Cancer Kickers with J. Cynthia Brooks and Mr. James Jinks, our good friend here at UCY, which he's on Sundays. He produces for J. Cynthia. Wonderful.
Ah, okay.
And then the new show that started last week is New Deal Resonance with Matthew and Evan, followed by Mr. Chuck O'Celli at 8 p.m. on the East Coast.
Okay.
And then we wind up the week with After the Last Cup. And
awesome.
That's 10 o'clock on the East Coast. So, hey, Walter, thanks for a great job over here. And I always love listening to you. Very challenging. Makes me have to think for myself sometimes and question myself, which I think is a good thing. So, appreciate your work.
Thanks for calling, Vince.
Take care, brother.
Take care. See you later.
Bye-bye.
All right, guys. That was people calling. So let's pick this up where we were. And where were we? Here we were. USS Liberty. It was a spy ship for the U.S., Carpenter said, conducting surveillance on the war in international waters near Gaza and the Sinai. Carpenter, excuse me, was a communications technician, transmitting encrypted messages. But the Liberty was alone and significantly outgunned. We had 50 caliber machine guns, Carpenter said, going up against French-made Israeli Mirage fighter jets and torpedo boats. It was pretty chaotic, to be sure, said Carpenter. He may have missed death by moments. He and a friend had just left an area of the ship when it was struck by an Israeli torpedo that was responsible for most of the deaths on board. Much of the crew's efforts were spent putting out fires and keeping the ship afloat. Carpenter recalled one sailor who got separated from the group Carpenter was with and was killed by the attacking planes. Carpenter enlisted in the Navy at age 17, graduating from West, and had planned to re-enlist. That was before June 8, 1967, said Carpenter. He is now close to retirement from Tyson Fresh Meats in Waterloo. 43 sailors received medals for heroism in the incident. Yeah. I don't understand that word incident. It's an attack. Ship Commander William McGonigal received the Medal of Honor. Alright, next. USS Liberty veterans await attack inquiry. See, it's not incident inquiry, it's attack inquiry. As we recently celebrated Memorial Day honoring all U.S. past and present veterans, we must never forget those officers and men of the USS Liberty. On June 8, 1967, the unarmed U.S. Navy intelligence ship USS Liberty, dialing at less than 5 knots. Dialing, that's probably supposed to be sailing. I don't understand. On June 8, 1967, the unarmed U.S. Navy intelligence ship USS Liberty sailing at less than 5 knots, was suddenly attacked without warning or prior contact in international waters by the air and naval forces of the State of Israel. Yeah. I don't understand the prior contact either. I mean, depends on your definition of contact, right? But what I was told by this one survivor, not me, but on the video he was speaking, he said that before the attack, they were seen by several planes with a Jewish star on the side. All right, that's contact. So they knew exactly where this ship was. All right. The USS Liberty was surveyed for more than 9 hours by Israeli aircraft overflight and radar tracking before the unprovoked attack. It was an American ship, hence neutral during the June 1967 Israeli-Arab War. It remained in international waters at all times on that fateful day. During the attack, the USS Liberty crew had difficulty contacting 6th Fleet to request assistance because of intense communication jamming. Out of 294 officers and men, including 3 civilians, 34 Americans were killed and 174 were wounded. The ship, a 40 million state-of-the-art signal intelligence platform, was later declared unsalvageable and sold for scrap. Yeah. How dare you sell that for scrap also, right? That thing should be in a museum. Survivors reported that Israeli torpedo boats crews swept the deck on the US Liberty, any crew member above deck, and inflated lifeboats with continuous machine gun fire. Yeah. The defenseless crew had only themselves to rely upon and fought heroically to save themselves and their ship. They were later awarded collectively 1 Medal of Honor, 2 Navy Crosses, 11 Silver Stars, 20 Bronze Stars, and 9 Navy Commendation Medals and 4 Purple Hearts. The USS Liberty was awarded the Presidential Unit Citation. Now, it says in between brackets here, with V device. Alright, 20 Bronze Stars with V device. So let's do a little history research. And original meaning of V. Let's see if that what we get. No, because I heard in last one of the latest videos that I watched of the Second World War. Let's see, this is not a good search of sign V. With Churchill, right? He also put up his fingers like that. But he was told by other people in the government that this is not appropriate because it's supposed to have a different meaning. So first of all, it's a 5, right, for Roman numerals. I don't know, guys, if this is can't find original sign of how else could I search this, right? Next, let's see if we can get a. Not getting any good links here regarding the original the meaning of The V symbol. Nope. That's not so good. I'll have to do some more research on this. Maybe get back a little later. See, if you look at it from in pictures, you get a lot of Nazi symbolism. How about that, right? That's not so good. Them Nazis and their swastika, that symbol is very old as well. And I don't know, I don't understand this. When it says here, search is related to original meaning of sign V, you get original meaning of swastika. That's not what I'm asking for. The original meaning of swastika is very old. It's a walking sun. The oldest that I've been able to track it to is the Indian mythologies. And there it's a walking sun. People in India used to have these all over the place, in the houses and on poles and signs. Okay, I'll have to get back about this on another show, guys, this original meaning of V. So let's get back to where we were. Where were we? Here we were. The Israeli investigation later conducted that the attack was an unfortunate accident and no one was ever reprimanded or held accountable. Even though the Johnson administration did not accept the result, it also, without reasonable explanation, never sought justice for the dead and injured Americans or pursued a thorough investigation of the attack. Near universal consensus continues to be that the attack was made with full knowledge that the USS Liberty was a US Navy ship. Yeah. In his capacity as assistant to the president, Clark Clifford reported to Lyndon Johnson that claiming the USS Liberty was mistaken for the Egyptian supply ship El Quasir was unbelievable. The El Quasir had 1/4 the displacement of the Liberty, was 180 feet shorter, and was very differently configured. Virtually every knowledgeable American official, except for Robert McNamara, has been quoted on record that the attack was deliberate. On June 8, 2005, the USS Liberty Veterans Association filed a formal report with the Department of Defense of war crimes committed against US military personnel by elements of the Israeli military forces. The ship's survivors have been forbidden for more than 40 years to tell their story. The United States is obligated by law and by international treaty to investigate all such reports by or against US forces. Unfortunately, veterans and their supporters are still waiting for such investigations some 45 years later. Alright guys, it's 48, so it's 58 I mean, almost the end of this event. So, thank everybody in the chat, 8 Hawks, Dale, Dan, Home Gym, Jack Fox, JJ, Joe, Jules, Just in Time, who just left. Vincent and one Anon. Did I miss anybody? SLC Mike. Hey buddy, how you doing? Joe Friday, what's up? One of the members in chat that I met long ago. I'm glad to see that he's still kicking. How you doing, buddy? So thank you all for listening, and be back next week. If all goes well, in the 21st I'll have a special guest, so make sure you don't miss that. And that's Huxley coming in, so thanks all everybody. Take care.
I think a new world order is emerging.
An inside job? How dare you? How dare you?
to create, so to say, mass-produced models of human beings arranged in some kind of a scientific caste system.